Hey everyone, it's Alex. Huge news in Marvel Snap today as Second Dinner, the development team behind Marvel Snap, have announced a development roadmap which reveals a whole lot about the future plans of Marvel Snap and what we can expect moving forward going into full launch and beyond. So let's actually take a look here at the development roadmap that they just released. We're going to break it down. I'll give you some kind of first impressions and give you some kind of ideas of what I'm thinking this means for the future of the game. Now, first of all, goodbye beta, hello future. We are getting ready for the full launch on October 18th. I know I'm excited, I'm sure you are as well. And I'm not gonna read it verbatim word for word because that's something you can do within the app. I strongly recommend it. But what you're gonna see here right away is the development roadmap coming soon. We've got global mobile launch, we got PC early access, we got localization in different languages, a welcome bundle, reward delivery, and then we have an inbox system and a variant rarity system. Okay, in development, we've got an unranked mode. We have battle versus friends, like a battle mode versus friends, and they'll describe it a little bit below. Collectors tokens, which I think are really, really interesting. I think the community has been asking and clamoring for this for some time. And then you have titles and PC widescreen UI, which actually kind of surprised me because, to be honest with you, I kind of thought that the PC early access release was going to have a widescreen UI, so I guess we're going to see what the PC early access looks like. It might not be as fully featured as maybe we would have expected, so that's in development apparently. Then in concept, we got new competitive modes, a guild and social system, in-game events, Infinity rank leaderboards, collectible emotes, and card emojis, which I think are absolutely hilarious. I think that's a good idea. And then mythic variants. So they've added this idea of having rarities in the variants. And so let's actually talk about a couple things here. So first of all, the coming soon section here. So they're working on a bunch of stuff. We know that global launch is coming for iOS and Android. And as I said prior, the PC early access is not going to be a fully featured PC early access with regards to the widescreen UI and everything you might come to expect. So it might be a rework of the mobile kind of vertical pane, so to speak. So, that's something that is kind of disappointing, but also not completely shocking either, right? So I would have liked to have seen a proper, widescreen UI ready for the PC early access release. I mean, there's so many games, there's so much competition out there on Steam, and I was really hoping the Marvel Snap would make a really powerful first impression with that PC early access build. And not having a widescreen UI, I bet you is going to show up in the Steam reviews and people are going to grief because it's not there. So I really hope it lands on PC because I think that's really important for the longevity of the game. With that being said, we're moving on to the rarity system. So essentially, they're going to have over 1,000 variants in Marvel Snap, which is absolutely incredible. So at launch, we're going to have 1,000 variants. And I love variants. This is something that I think goes kind of understated in Marvel Snap. One of the key benefits and one of the key driving factors in Marvel Snap is the concept that you can collect really cool things. Just like, there are people that collect the comic books from Marvel in the first place. The ability to collect different variants and stuff like that, I think, is really cool in Marvel Snap. I think the collector side of this game is really neat, and to see them have a wide variety of variants ready and then having a kind of rare variant system is kind of interesting as well. It sounds as though they are going to make it so that some of the variants will be only accessible via the premium currency gold, and then have another few that will be available via the battle passes. So there's going to be a little bit of a paywall there. I still think that the variants at 700 gold are way too much money. I think that's way too expensive. They must have some stats as to what's happening with the sales. I mean, everyone that's bought variants thus far has pretty much bought them by accident, by just kind of like clicking the button and just having it automatically confirm with no confirmation dialogue. So I do think this is a little expensive at 700 gold still. Let me know in the comments if you've bought variants. I bought one. It was a white queen one. I just needed it, and it was a very poor financial decision. And I'm sure you probably have a card that you bought and you're like, yeah, that's not worth 12 bucks or whatever it is in the exchange rate at your native land. But regardless, the variant system, pretty interesting. In development, these are features that are being constantly developed, reiterated on, and etc. So battle mode versus friends. So basically people want a 1v1, and this is more than just a 1v1 mode. Basically it's like a series of matches where essentially you have 10 health, and if you snap on someone, they lose more health if you win, and etc. So you kind of replay each other. It sounds like right now it's like you're playing with your own decks. I would like to see if perhaps you can actually select which deck you play. You get to pick after every single match you pick from a pool of like 3 decks if you're playing 3 or 4 games or something like that, so you can actually switch up the decks, right? So you can actually kind of throw some curveballs at your buddy. I think that'd be really interesting. But right now, I mean, this sounds like a pretty interesting implementation, and if it's in development, they're testing it, so I'm sure it's pretty fun, and I'm looking forward to it, because I think the social things in games are they're really important. I think they really do a good job of locking in people and kind of getting them involved in the game itself and keeping them motivated to keep playing, because if you have friends playing, it becomes easier to kind of like have common ground and just stay motivated in the game. So I think having those social style things that aren't just solely about rank grinding are super important, because at the end of the day, playing with friends is very rewarding. And you have the unranked mode. Everyone asks for this, right? You want to do your quests, you want to test a deck, you don't want to risk your cubes. There are no floors in ranked, with the exception of getting to infinity itself. And so the unranked mode is something that like people really want to see. And I think the major problem right now is that I think they're concerned about fracturing the player base, because if you release it too early and you were in early beta and there's not enough players, then the unranked mode is kind of just making it so that you're getting less favorable matches in the ranked mode, and obviously you're getting less favorable matches in the unranked mode itself, and you're more likely to play against bots, because I think a major core design decision behind Marvel Snap is they really want snappy games, no pun intended. They want to find an opponent for you within 5 seconds or so. So, dividing the player base is probably not what they want to do right now. But this is probably the most important thing brought up so far, and it's the collector's tokens. This is absolutely massive. So basically on Reddit and everywhere, a common theme is that people are really having trouble with the collection track, meaning that they don't get a specific card they need. Like for me, like I don't have Mystique as of recording, and it's been like one of those cards that has completely eluded me, which is a core card in so many decks. And I actually really like the collection system. I think that, like, listen, I think net decking straight up can be somewhat harmful to a game long term. I mean, this is coming from a YouTuber, okay? Like, I'm gonna make the cringe, clickbaity, 100% win rate deck videos and all. I'm gonna do it too, and let's be honest. And it's one of those things where like people look at the decks and they're like, huh, this is a cool deck, but I don't have like 3 of the cards, so I guess I can't do this, right? It's cool because I think the collection system works in the sense that you can never really assume what people are going to have. Like in Hearthstone, it's like, oh, look, it's a Reno Jackson deck, and you knew exactly what his list was. And it was like, it felt like really repetitive, and there were very few surprises. But in Marvel Snap, even if someone is playing a hella discard deck, and maybe you're like, okay, well, do they have a Captain Marvel? Like they discarded Captain Marvel, so this game's different already because maybe they substituted that Captain Marvel in for another card. Maybe they don't have whatever else they might need. They don't have Hell Cow, so they added more discard things in there right there. So I mean, the variation of decks I think is super valuable. That was a terrible example, but it's late at night for me right now. But ideally, you want to have that variation where everyone sits in front of their decks and say, okay, that's an archetype I can do, but like, how can I make it my own with what I have? And I think that having that ownership over the deck building is super important. I think it makes this game really interesting long term, where for me, I play tons of different decks all the time, mostly for content reasons. I want to have a variety of content for YouTube and stuff, but I think it's just fun. It's just fun to play a wide variety of things. Like in Hearthstone, like I would often just build this is the meta Face Hunter deck, and I'm just playing this, I guess, because I invested all my dust in these legendaries and I can't afford any other decks, so I just play this now. That sucks. Like, it really wears you down. So the collection tokens are cool because it allows you to kind of pinpoint individual cards that you might want. Now, obviously, this is still in development. We don't have this yet. But like, if you're gaining these tokens along the collection track, and then what happens is you're like, okay, I need that Mystique, and I have not pulled Mystique yet, and she ends up in the in that token shop, I can lock it in place and say, okay, when I have enough tokens, I'm getting that Mystique. It kind of makes it so that, like, if you're completely being crippled by the fact that you don't have a very specific card, like you literally don't have Hela and you have all these other discard cards, you don't have Hela yet, or like you're like, man, I just need Mr. Negative. I have Magic, I have Sarah, I don't have Negative. Like, what? I just want to play Mr. Negative. There he is in the shop, and you lock down Mr. Negative. I think that's a really cool compromise, right? I think this is probably a really big deal for a lot of players, and I think it's great. I think it's a really good implementation of being kind of giving the opportunity for players to pick their own cards and to kind of pinpoint individual cards and synergies that they want to expand upon while still keeping the collection track and the variability of everyone's decks still in check, which I still think is really important for the longevity of the game. But I think this is one of those things that, hey, listen, this is what people are asking for. And while Broad and the team at Second Dinner might be sitting there saying, listen, we really are sticking to this collection system, which I think they are, and they've made clear, I think that people really wanted these collection tokens. They really wanted the opportunity, at least to some extent, to handpick a card or two. And this is exactly what's going to happen. And a very important thing in there as well is that they're saying that, where was it here? It's with the addition of collectors tokens, we will be significantly dropping the amount of boosters from collectors caches and reserves. Let's give the team a hand. This is absolutely huge. Everyone hates boosters, and this, if anything, okay, everyone wanted the opportunity to handpick a card or two, but getting rid of boosters and giving us tokens instead, oh, thank you, Broad. Thank you so much. This actually is a game changer. So I know I spent a lot of time on this, but I do think that this is actually low-key the biggest change by far in the entire kind of development note here. But let's move on to what's in concept. Now, these are things that are kind of just straight up like concept, like they're not actually really iterating on yet or developing, but basically new competitive modes. That's interesting. I'd like to see like an auto battler mode or something. I mean, I come from like Dota Underlords and stuff like that, so I love auto battlers. I'd like to see that. I mean, there's so much you can do with this Marvel Snap universe and these cards they've created. I'd love to see a draft mode, right? Give me a booster pack and let me pick you know, what cards I want from it. I think that's really cool. You know, guilds and social systems I think are really valuable. You know, I come from Dota, and Dota, when they implemented a guild system, it created such social momentum for the game. And I think it can't be understated that these types of systems really do benefit. Like, they just make the game more fun. And at the end of the day, what do you want from a game? You want it to be fun. So those social systems really work. And then you have in-game events. They've been experimenting with this through beta, and it's been hit and miss. Like the kind of Shield versus Hydra thing, like it was so buggy I could barely even participate. But you know, I think the in-game events are cool, and hopefully they kind of get back to that. And you got the ladder, and then the collectible emotes and card emojis. I would like that. You know, make them part of the reserve, even, you know, with variants and other things, instead of giving us those stupid boosters. Well, they're giving us tokens now, but maybe give us like fun emojis or stuff like that, right? Let us, you know, do emojis on locations, right? I think that'd be a cool idea. And then the mythic variants, which is like a new level of variant. I don't know if it's going to be for pay only. Like, there's no way of us knowing, right? Hopefully not. I do think that the variants are expensive enough, to be honest with you. I still think they're too expensive, but that's a whole other discussion. Regardless, this is the development update for Marvel Snap, the development roadmap. I mean, I'm really happy that they sent this out for us because it's huge. I think having a development roadmap, sorry, moving the map around all over the place. I think it's huge because it really helps us to know where the game's going. I mean, if we're playing a beta right now, and if you're watching later, you know, we're the hardcore fans. Like, we are the primary players of the game right now, and we've invested so much time, energy, money, perhaps, and it's one of those things where, like, we want to know where this game's going, right? We want to know. As a content creator, I'd love to know where the game's going because, you know, I invest a ton of energy in the game, as do others, and I think it's super valuable for them to have a development roadmap. And give Second Dinner credit. Like, they're listening to the Discord. They're listening. So if you have feedback, join their Discord. I mean, join my Discord too if you want. I'll leave a link down below. But regardless, guys, thanks for watching. And I mean, I was so excited to make this video because anytime there's new news in Marvel Snap, I'm going to try and cover it as fast as I can and give you some perspective on what I think. Thanks, guys, for watching, and we'll see you in the next Marvel Snap video.